You ever notice how the people with the least business telling you what to do are always the ones with a clipboard? I swear if I had $1 for every time an HOA president tried to flex their authority, I could buy a new snowblower every winter. And in Boulder, Colorado, that's saying something. Anyway, let me tell you about the January when my little slice of suburbia got turned upside down by a storm of scandal and one very power-hungry neighbor. It was a Saturday so cold my breath felt like it could snap in two, and I was in the garage trying to wrangle my collection of winter gear. You know the drill, emergency water food tools, a generator, all the stuff you hope you'll never need but would rather have than not. That's when Patricia Whitmore showed up at my door banging so hard I thought the hinges might come off. Now Patricia, she was something else. Always dressed like she was heading to a ski resort, never a hair out of place, and with that notorious HOA clipboard glued to her hand. I opened the door, and before I could say anything, she's already into her speech. "Mr. Montgomery, I need to speak with you immediately about a violation. Not even a good morning or mind if I come in. Just all business." I wiped my hands on my jeans, half expecting this was about my driveway or something, but she cuts right to it. "Multiple neighbors have reported that you have excessive storage in your garage that violates Section 12.4 of our community guidelines. There are also concerns about hazardous materials." I had to laugh. Hazardous materials. "Patricia, those are emergency supplies. It's Colorado. We're getting a blizzard." But you know how it is, she's not hearing any of it. She rattles off some HOA nonsense about inspections and possible confiscation, like she's the sheriff in a one-horse town. This is the same woman who fined Mrs. Chen for a mailbox that was the wrong shade of white and tried to make the Morrisons take down their son's basketball hoop because it was 2 inches too tall. Now it's my emergency kit in her crosshairs. I told her flat out, "I'm not letting you confiscate my emergency supplies. That's insane and dangerous with this storm coming." But Patricia just smiled, one of those tight plastic smiles, and said, "Mr. Montgomery, this isn't a request. Under Section 23.7 of the HOA Covenant, the board has the right to inspect any property that poses a hazard. Refuse and we'll fine you $500 a day." Here's where the story gets interesting. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'm Isaac Montgomery. I trained disaster response teams for Boulder County. For 8 years, I've been teaching people how to get ready for exactly the kind of storm barreling our way. If irony had a flavor, I'd have choked on it right then and there. So I let her in. "Go ahead, but I'm recording this." She strutted through my garage, peering at everything. My water containers labeled and rotated just like FEMA says. 2 weeks worth of food meds, a generator, tools, radios, every single thing stored by the book. She pointed at my generator fire hazard. I told her it's the safest on the market stored properly. She pointed at my water, takes up too much space. "Lady, we live where snow knocks out power for days." She scribbled furiously, announced I had 72 hours to clear everything out or else, and marched out to her pristine white SUV. I just stood there fuming. But you know, anger can be a pretty good motivator. I called my buddy Dave, works legal for the county, told him the whole story. He was quiet for a second, then said, "They can't confiscate your stuff without due process. And Colorado statute protects emergency preparedness supplies. Plus you. Turns out not only am I protected by law, but the HOA itself paid to send people to my disaster training last year. No joke." I pulled up my training logs, and there they were, Jennifer, Marcus, Robert, all from Meadowbrook Heights, Patricia's own HOA volunteers. With Dave's help, I drafted a reply to Patricia's inevitable email, 3 pages of legalese about community safety and compliance, all of it twisted to suit her power trip. I quoted the statute, explained everything was by the book, and mentioned oh so casually that the HOA had sent members to my class. Didn't take long for the HOA lawyer Helmsley to get involved, threatening legal action and accusing me of leveraging my professional status. "You can't make this stuff up." But here comes the twist. Jennifer Schaefer, one of the volunteers from my training, calls me after I reach out. When I explain what's happening, she bursts out laughing, then groans, "Isaac, half the disaster team has their garages organized exactly like yours. Because that's what you taught us." She was as outraged as I was and offered to gather the others to speak up at the next board meeting. Sunday. The snow starts just light at first. Then it's dumping wind, howling temps dropping. I'm getting messages from Patricia and her cronies, all threats and bluster, but what they don't know is that every email, every text, every little power move is just making my case stronger. I met Jennifer, Marcus, and Robert at a coffee shop downtown. Turns out Patricia's been harassing their families too, Mrs. Chen over a mailbox, Marcus's family over a wheelchair ramp for his dad, Robert's grandmother for rocks in her garden. Patricia isn't just overzealous. She's on a mission to mold the neighborhood in her own image, and anyone who steps out of line gets steamrolled. But the annual meeting's coming up if we get enough people to show we can vote her out. In the meantime, we plan to take the fight public. The storm is getting worse. Monday morning, my phone won't stop buzzing, powers out across the county roads impassable. I'm coordinating emergency response from home, checking on shelters, making sure the most vulnerable folks are safe. Around 3, my boss calls. Turns out my own neighborhood needs a wellness check. So I pack my truck with blankets, food, and lights from the very stash Patricia wants gone, and I hit the snow. Mrs. Chen answers her door in 3 sweaters, shivering. I get her set up with heat flashlights and call Robert to come fetch her. Then I spend the next couple hours checking on other neighbors, sharing supplies. By the time I trudge back half frozen, it's almost time for the HOA emergency board meeting. Patricia's set it up by video. Nobody can get out in this weather. She starts the meeting with that icy smile, accusing me of refusing to comply. But then Jennifer pops up on screen, reminding everyone of the right to bring witnesses. Marcus and Robert join too. Suddenly, Patricia's not just dealing with me, she's facing a whole team. I explain calmly as I can that my supplies are not only legal, they're the reason people have heat and food tonight. Jennifer points out that the HOA literally paid me to teach this stuff. Marcus asks who these complaining neighbors are. Turns out none of the actual residents have a problem except Patricia and her friends. The board wavers. Barbara, one of the quieter members, wants to table the issue. Donald seconds it. Patricia is outvoted. Meeting adjourned, Patricia seething. Jennifer calls me after people are talking Isaac. That reporter Robert knows wants to do a story. The next 2 days I'm running on caffeine and adrenaline storms in full swing. News hits the local press. HOA threatens disaster response expert over emergency kit during blizzard. The story explodes. By the weekend, it's gone viral. Patricia tries to claim it's all a misunderstanding, but the floodgates open. Suddenly, everyone's sharing their own stories of her overreach. Saturday, the annual meeting. Usually a couple dozen people show up. This year, the community center is packed, over 200 counting folks online. One by one, neighbors stand up. Mrs. Chen, Marcus's father, a young couple with solar panels, a veteran who got harassed over his flag. It's a tidal wave of grievances. Patricia can't hold back the tide. She's voted out her allies with her. Jennifer steps in as president, Marcus as VP, and the new board immediately promises transparency. But the biggest bombshell, turns out Patricia had been embezzling from the HOA for years, paying herself a salary, hiring her brother's overpriced landscaping company, charging personal dinners to the account. Over $140,000 gone. The new board calls the DA. By mid-February, Patricia's in handcuffs, charged with felony theft. Justice right there in black and white. And karma. Oh, she didn't wait. Patricia's house is sold off to pay restitution. Her lawyer investigated, no charges, but he's out of a job, and the recovered funds are used for real community improvements, emergency supply caches, backup generators, training programs. Mrs. Chen's mailbox is left alone. Marcus's father's ramp gets a fresh coat of paint on the house. The couple expands their solar panels with full board approval. And me, my emergency kit stays right where it is. That summer, Jennifer comes by with a plaque recognition for my extraordinary community service during the blizzard. It goes up in my garage, a reminder that sometimes the most important thing you can do is stand your ground. It's not about being right for the sake of pride. It's about making sure you can help when it matters. That, and making sure no one gets away with bullying their way through life unchecked. A year goes by. Another blizzard, this one not as bad. The emergency response team jumps into action. Backup power keeps the community center running. And now when I do wellness checks, almost every neighbor has their own supplies ready to ride out whatever nature throws our way. Meadowbrook Heights is a different place. New families move in gardens, bloom in the front yards, and nobody's getting fined for having too much water or the wrong kind of rocks. Sometimes I look back and wonder if Patricia ever realized the irony. She tried to punish me for being prepared, but she ended up exposing herself and making the whole community stronger. The classes I teach are standing room only. Other HOAs want advice on balancing rules with common sense. I even get invited to speak at a national conference. My story becomes a warning about unchecked power and the need for resilience, not just to storms, but to the people who think they can control everything. The most satisfying moment, not the news stories or the ovation at the conference. It's when Tom, my quiet neighbor, stops me one night and says, "Thanks, Isaac. For the first time in years, it feels like home again around here." That's what it's really about. Not revenge, not winning, just knowing that folks can breathe easy, live their lives, and look out for each other instead of watching their backs. As I write this, the snow's starting up again, just a dusting, nothing serious. My emergency kit is ready, and now it's a resource for everyone, not a violation. Patricia tried to take away my right to prepare. In the end, she handed the whole neighborhood its backbone back. That's the real lesson. I think sometimes the best defense isn't just being ready for disaster, but for the people who mistake authority for actual power. So here's the question: where's the line between protecting a community and controlling it? When does enforcing the rules become something much darker? I've seen how easy it is for a clipboard and a little power to turn into a wrecking ball. I want to know, what do you think? Where's the boundary between common sense and control freak? Drop your thoughts below or share your own run-in with power-tripping HOAs or neighborhood busybodies. Who knows? Maybe your story will help the next community stand up, get prepared, and finally tell the clipboard crowd, enough is enough.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.